Hey everyone, welcome to Random Spirit Podcast. I am your host, Cynthia. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to invite you all this Friday, March 28th, to my new moon circle. There's a new moon on Saturday, the 29th, but I am hosting a circle on the 28th. In this new moon circle, I will be teaching you how to use that fire element, that energy from Aries. We will be setting intentions and doing shadow work. I absolutely love using the moon for manifestation and just for inner work. I teach you how to use the energy of the moon and your actual birth chart to see where it may affect you. If you're interested, the link is going to be down below. Grab your journal, grab a candle, and we're going to go on and set intentions and work with the moon. I also want to thank each and every one of you that has subscribed to my YouTube channel, followed me on the other platforms that you can listen to this podcast. If you are not already, go on and like, subscribe, and follow me on all the platforms. Show some love and interact in the comments. Now go on and get ready. I hope you all enjoy today's episode. Welcome, Craig Meriwether, the hypnotherapist, to Random Spirit Podcast.
Cynthia, thank you so
Woo!
much. Yeah, I've been looking
Woo!
forward to this conversation. We had quite the adventure a little bit ago, so I've been looking forward to
Yes.
getting your read
You,
on it and a little bit more about your experience. So yeah, I'm ready
yes,
to go.
absolutely. So I did a past life regression with Craig, and it was healing for me. It was extremely healing. Well, like I'll go on and share, my experience with it, but I just want to say that you are amazing, Craig. Like
Oh,
you
thank you.
really
Oh my God,
are.
thank you.
I have um issues with just like connecting with men,
No, I get that. I
and
understand.
you have this like fatherly vibe, and it's just so beautiful because during the past life regression, I was low-key scared. I was like, oh my God, because like I cannot do like a guided meditation or something like that with the man talking. There's like
Hmm.
something in me that's like, you don't tell me what to do.
Right, right. No, I get that. Yeah,
You
I totally
know. But
understand. Yeah.
you just have this very like loving, and I feel like we need more of you in the world.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
You just made my day. I think I might actually transcribe that and hang that on my wall. I really appreciate you saying that. We can be done. Let's just
We're
wrap
not
this up
wrapping
and
up. We're not.
thank you for your time and wow, thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate you saying that. That really to get that kind of feedback is super important to me and meaningful to me. And I appreciate you being honest too, because that's a little vulnerable to say it like that, the way you did, because I know there's troubles out there and that
Mhm.
people have gone through some traumatic experiences. So I appreciate you telling me that.
Go on and just a little intro. Who are you? What you do? How did
Sure.
you get into this amazing healing work that you're doing?
Okay. I'll try to be brief and succinct.
Yeah.
I am a hypnotherapist, and what I do is use this relaxed state of mind and body known as hypnosis. It feels very much like meditation if you've ever done any sort of meditation or savasana at the end of a yoga class, everybody's favorite part of yoga. But basically, it's moving the mind and body. Well, I guess mind is the way I'm about to say it.
Hmm.
It's relaxing the body and moving the mind into an altered state of consciousness. Now, that seems kind of fancy and maybe a little frightening, even altered state of consciousness. But basically, what we're doing in hypnosis, in meditation, in savasana, watching TV, being bored back in high school math class or a meeting at work, or that state of driving home and you start thinking about, oh, I got people coming over this weekend and I got to get the house together, or I got that meeting tomorrow at work and I got to get the PowerPoint together. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your driveway or your parking spot or your garage and you don't remember the last 5 or 6 blocks because your mind went to the something in the future or remembering something in the past. That's an altered state of consciousness, meaning you took yourself out of the present moment and you started thinking about the future, remembering something in the past, good or bad. And basically, what is happening biologically is you're slowing down brainwave state. basically just how fast the neurons are connecting and firing in your brain. So the famous ones we learned about in school were beta, alpha, theta, and delta. People probably heard about those. And basically, what you and I are in right now, Cynthia, maybe a lot of the people listening and watching are in beta. This is consciousness. This is being aware of the present moment. We're firing about 18, 20 cycles per second. Now, let's say, as an example, that I'm back in high school math class and I'm paying
Mhm.
attention because it's going to be on the test and I need to do well on this test. And so I'm paying attention, I'm taking notes, I'm really concentrating, and I'm really trying to understand what the teacher's saying. But this is really boring for me. And I'm taking notes, and all of a sudden I start like staring out the window and I start thinking about the weekend and how much fun I'm going to have. My friends are going to come over and going to go do some stuff. And I've taken myself out of the present moment. I don't hear the teacher anymore. Teacher's still talking. Kids are still acting up and asking questions or whatever. But I'm staring out the window and I'm thinking about the future. Maybe I'm remembering something about the past because the last time we got together, we had a really good time. And I've moved inward. I've moved into a more daydreamy state of mind. I'm relaxing my body a little bit more. I've now slowed down how fast the neurons are firing in my head, and I moved down to the alpha brainwave state. I'm so conscious. My eyes are open. It looks like I'm wide awake and paying attention, but I moved into a daydreamy state of mind, and I've slowed down my brainwave state to 12 cycles per second or so. Pretty soon, I start kind of lowering my eyes, and my head starts nodding down, and it looks like I'm falling asleep. I'm not really asleep. I'm not really awake either. I mean, people experience this falling asleep and waking up. This is now the theta brainwave state. Again, not really asleep, but not really consciously awake either. And I'm firing about 6 cycles per second. Pretty soon I might be deep asleep in delta, 1/2 cycle per second. But instead, the teacher sees me and says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And so I jolt myself awake and I'm looking around. All the kids are staring at me. It's gone silent. I'm really embarrassed. I'm really anxious because I don't know how to do the problem on board. I don't recognize this equation. And now I'm supposed to go up there and solve it. And now I've moved up into the fight or flight stress response. I'm now firing about 25, 30 cycles per second within my brain because now everything's moving really fast because I feel like I'm in danger. And so just in that 7, 8 minute little time segment, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times. I moved from beta down to alpha, down to theta, then way back up into high beta in the stress response. And so this is something we do all the time, this altered state of consciousness. Whether you're driving home, you start thinking about something else, whether you're bored in a meeting at work, whether you're watching TV. Watching TV puts you in the alpha brainwave state, getting lost in a good book. And so we're not doing anything different than you normally do in your everyday life. Not even talking about meditation, not even talking about yoga class or anything, but just in your everyday moving through the world life. You're at the grocery store, and all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh my God, in 2 weeks I got to get on the plane and I got to make sure I get the Uber and get. You start thinking about, so you've just altered your state of consciousness, move yourself down to alpha because you start moving yourself out of the present moment. This is a state that we use on purpose for the sake of therapy. Now,
Mhm.
in terms of hypnotherapy, by relaxing the body, we can quiet down that conscious level of mind, and we can therefore access the subconscious. And that's where a lot of the hurt and the pain and the trauma and the tension and the pressure resides because we're holding on to maybe things that have hurt us in the past because
Mhm.
our subconscious mind is trying to protect us. It may
Mhm.
not seem like that sometimes, but the main job of your subconscious mind, besides running your immune system and your digestive system and growing your hair and holding on to little habits like walking down the street and tying your shoes and zipping up your jacket, those are all held within the subconscious mind. But the main task is to keep you safe and protected and for survival, to keep you alive. And one of the ways it does this is by holding on to old hurt and pain because it doesn't want to experience it again. And so
Mhm.
it's sort of like you have this filing cabinet within your subconscious mind, all these files in the filing cabinet of hurt and pain and trauma, humiliation, and things that have caused anger and fear and rage. And if anything in your external environment filtered through that filing cabinet triggers one of those files, you can get a warning signal like anxiety or fear or anger. And so by quieting down the conscious mind, relaxing the body, you can access that subconscious mind and you're allowed to heal. You're allowed to change those instructions. You're the one who put them in there. And granted, maybe if it was a traumatic experience, it was through duress, and maybe when that person was a child, and certainly unconsciously. But it becomes empowering when you realize, well, if I'm the one who put it in there, even though it wasn't my fault, and it's not to blame the victim or say it was fair or should have happened, but this traumatic experience happened to somebody. It wasn't their fault. Somebody did it to them. But they're the ones who processed that information and installed the way to frame it as hurt or pain or fear or and that creates their view of the world and their position in it. You're allowed to change that. You're the one who set it up, granted, again, through a traumatic experience, but you're the one who set it up. And again, not to blame you or say it's the victim's fault or anything, but becomes empowering because if you're the one who did that, then you're the one who can change it, right? You don't have to look outside of yourself to have somebody else heal you. And that's the fascinating thing about hypnotherapy is that I don't fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You fix yourself because there's a wonderful doctor, Dr. Irving Kirsch, calls hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo because with a placebo, we know mind will heal the body. Pharmaceutical companies, when they're doing the research, have to actually account for this in their research. They know mind will heal the body. So when, let's say, they're doing high blood pressure medication, and half the group's going to get the sugar pill. Okay, we've all heard about this. The sugar pill, they're going to get tricked into healing themselves because they know they will do it. And so they're looking for how this research has been set up, what they're telling the volunteers in terms of what the research is about, the fact sheet that people were handed, the waiver that people signed, the instructions of the doctors, the nurses, the researchers. This is all influencing people. And they want to see if that language, if the fact sheet, if it has any influence on them healing themselves. They need to account for that. So let's say the people in the sugar pill, 30% get better. They've tricked them into healing themselves. Well, on the real medication, 40% get better. Well, they now have to subtract 30% because maybe they tricked them into healing themselves too because of what they said during the intake and the waiver form and the fact sheet. So really only 10% got better on that high blood pressure medication, and that's good enough. They'll put it on the market for, 80 bucks a pill. But nobody really looks at, yeah, but 30% more people actually healed themselves
Hmm.
through mind. And so that's why Dr. Irving Kirsch calls this a non-deceptive placebo, because we're going to do this on purpose. You're going to
Yeah.
heal yourself on purpose. So that's maybe a long answer to a short question. But
Hmm.
in terms of this work, you're using your own mind, both conscious and subconscious, but your entire mind to heal your body, or whether it's a mindset issue like lack of confidence, or an issue around emotions. Somebody's dealing with chronic anxiety or just anger issues or something like that. You're allowed to heal. And in terms of myself, the reason I got into this work is twofold. One is I was dealing with my own depression, my own anxiety growing up
Hmm.
in my teenage years. This is back in the 1980s. And, there's no internet back then.
Yeah.
Really, and even those Prozac drugs, SSRI drugs, didn't come out till the mid 90s, late 90s. And they're really expensive when they came out too. So really all you had in the 1980s was talk therapy or whatever book you might be able to find at the library or the bookstore. And, a teenage boy's not going to do any of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's sort of something I just sat with until the birth of my son in the year 2001. And I really said, thought I got to get my life together. It's like one of those life-changing, or
Hmm.
chance, I guess, moments where it's like, okay, well, sometimes you'll you'll work on yourself or you'll look for healing for somebody else if you can't or won't do it for yourself. You'll step up for somebody else. And so that's kind of was a big wake up moment for me. It's like, well, I gotta, my mom struggled with depression. I struggle with depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
What's my son's gonna struggle with depression and anxiety? So I wanted to have some tools. And one of the things in terms of my research by then, the internet's out there, at least in a beginning stage
Yes,
back
yes,
in
yes.
the thousands, but you had access to information. The Prozac drugs opened up a conversation about depression and anxiety that wasn't there before. And so there was a lot more information, discussion about it. I was reading books, Tony Robbins and whatever self-help books,
Yes, yes.
because I wanted to get better. And one of the things I noticed is sometimes these articles, blog posts, when people are talking on interviews, they'd give the four things or five things you can do to change your life. And of the five things, four would always be different, but everybody always kept mentioning hypnotherapy. Like these people
Hmm.
I admire, the people I follow, kept saying, well, and certainly you need to try hypnotherapy. And so I started looking into it, understood what it was about, and I used it for myself. That's part one. So I use these techniques
Hmm.
to help heal myself of the pain I was holding on to. But the other aspect of me is I really love the spiritual side of things, the esoteric, the obscure, uh,
Hmm.
and spirituality was very important to me growing up. And I'm not, and I grew up religious in the Episcopal
Yes.
and went to a Baptist high school, strangely enough, which are
Okay.
strangely, even though they're both Christian, are both opposing kind of viewpoints in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So that was a bit of a weird upbringing. But then I went to then my girlfriend, but my wife and I moved to Santa Cruz, California, and there was just a cultural awakening for me. This was 1990. I
Hmm.
get no internet or anything, and so I was pretty boxed in Southern California, San Diego. So we moved to Santa Cruz, and there's all sorts of different cultures and people and dance and music, and with the dance and the music comes culture and spirituality. And I didn't realize there was all these different kinds of thoughts and philosophies and ways of reaching enlightenment or God or whatever, however you want
Hmm.
to say it. And so it blew my mind open as a young Baptist school graduate who
Hmm.
was born into the Episcopal Church. So I learned and I studied and San Francisco is right there, San Jose is right there. So there's a lot of different communities influencing on me,
Hmm.
and it just opened up a world that I didn't really didn't know about, let alone understand.
Hmm.
And so anyway, uh, again, long story to what should have been a short "Who are you?" question.
It's fine. It's okay. I love listening to stories because it's like it brings a lot of questions as to like how was that? How was it for you like emotionally and just
Yeah,
you graduated from you said like a religious school and then you're in this and it's
yeah,
like
and this and the other, you know, not only does hypnotherapy work well for things like dealing with trauma someone may experience,
hmm
where that happened 2 weeks ago or 40 years ago. I've worked with people in their 70s who went all the way back to being 5 years old and the trauma they've been holding on to for 65 years or so. All the way, but there's that aspect of it, helping athletes with confidence or entrepreneurs or kids or adults with test anxiety or whatever. All these different aspects of hypnotherapy, but the deeper side of it is, are you able to use these processes and these techniques to access the other side or the behind the veil or whatever metaphor you want to use? Can you use it for things like seeing if you've lived this lives before, or access spirit world to connect with your guides or your soul family, these people who kind of incarnate with you and grow and learn and develop as a soul with you together? Are you able to access the divine and access that spiritual side of you? And hypnotherapy can help you do this. The school I went to, the specific reason I went to the school, the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's been around about 40 years training people in therapeutic hypnosis. The reason I went to this school, one, it's a real school. You go there and you sit in a classroom with other people and you learn about the scientific validity behind these techniques, these healing techniques, whether it's more emotional work or trauma related work or medical issues, medical hypnosis like pain control and healing acceleration. So you learn about it. Maybe you see a demonstration at the front of the class, and then you break up into small groups and you work with each other. And this is 2.5 months, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. So it's really intensive, 500 hours. And it's broken up into modules every 2 weeks. Module 1 through 3 is just clinical hypnotherapy. You're learning the foundation, the core, the roots of this work. Module 4, the next 2 weeks, is medical hypnosis. So it's more intensive, dental issues, pain control, healing acceleration, this kind of stuff. But the last module, module 5, is past life regression. And that's what I wanted. And of course, it's so deep work. They want you to have this huge foundation to, uh, build upon. And 100% that's why I chose that institution to train with, is because of the way they built it. And they're going so far deep into past life regression, natal regression, regressing to being in the womb, spirit world regression, that kind of work, connecting with guides, because it was 2 weeks, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And
Hmm.
plus, you're hanging out with people on the weekend because it's Albuquerque and there's nothing to do. And you
Yeah.
want to work with people. And so you're just working all the time. And so this again, bringing it back to why hypnotherapy for me is one, there's the one aspect of how deeply healing it can be, having experienced it for myself, and kind of pivoting in midlife. Instead of buying a sports car, I thought, well, what I'd rather do is learn how to do this and help other people and move into that more healing field. And this is what I like because it helped me so much. But the other side of the coin, same coin, but the other side of it was, and I can also scratch that itch for me of
Hmm.
being so fascinated by spirituality and the divine and the this human interest in seeking what is on the other side, or what this is all about, or of existence.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating because I'm right in the middle of kind of putting together a book about past life regression, my own kind of past life guidebook. And so I'm doing a lot of research and I want to add other things. And, I'm kind of a bit ADD and obsessive compulsive. So I'm just going deep and all these things that interest me, and taking it all the way back to Neanderthal burial sites, and just noticing. And while, you can't really connect that to their, well, did they have beliefs in past lives? I know, but nobody knows. But even all the way back to Neanderthal burial sites 50,000 years ago, they see, the anthropologists, they can see that these bodies were buried intentionally. Someone just didn't, keel over and they left them there, or maybe put some rocks on top of them so the animals wouldn't get them, or they got, attacked by a predator and they said, oh, well, that's it for them. Let's leave them there. They intentionally took these bodies, put them in a cave, maybe even placed flowers or tools around them. So there's an intentionality. So there is a reverence for death, and maybe even some aspect of honoring death and maybe what might be on the other side. This is all guesswork and thing, but you can see all the way back to 50,000 years ago, as you know, Neanderthals didn't become humans, but these early humans and Neanderthals had some sort of idea that maybe there's something else, and I think we keep that with us. I mean, that's
Hmm.
your experience. This is why you do this podcast.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm not one to speak for you until tell you,
Hmm.
but a podcast is a lot of work.
Hmm.
There's a lot of effort. The fun part is having a conversation with somebody, but there's a lot of work in terms of scheduling and rescheduling because of life events happen. And then you got to process the recording and put on the intro music or whatever someone's got to do, then put it on YouTube or wherever somebody puts this stuff. It's a lot of work, let alone the promotion of it. So it's a lot of work and effort. And so to put this much work and effort into something that's probably not making you a millionaire is means there's some joy to it and importance to it to you. And to pick these kind of topics that you talk about means they're important to you. So you see, even today, probably like 50,000 years ago to us, this stuff about existence is interesting to us. And we want to talk about it, we want to find out about it. But now
Hmm.
we get the aspect of these tools like hypnotherapy and the science of the multiverse or computer simulation or the holographic universe, all these theories that help try to explain what's going on.
Yeah, that's all like
Now I take a
really
breath.
interesting.
So
Absolutely
that was
love. I love hearing about all that. When you started your practice, was there any challenges or any resistance
oh
there?
yeah. Still to this day, If I was to tell anybody who wants to get into this specific uh, realm of therapy, hypnotherapy, I think it's fun. I mean,
Hmm.
it's intense sometimes, but to see people, whether it's a Zoom session, most of my stuff over Zoom, the work we did together was over Zoom, a
Yes.
past life
Hmm.
regression over Zoom. I still see people in person, but mostly, I work with people. And what's fascinating about this is now I get to work with people around the world. And this is not maybe to toot my horn a little bit, but just to show you the reach that we
Hmm.
have now as human beings. Uh, I've been working with a professional basketball player in Iceland
Yeah.
who got my name from somebody, his friend who lives in Puerto Rico. It's extraordinary what we're able to do nowadays and the reach we have around the country, around the world. And so this works because I'm not the one doing the work. You're doing the work.
Yes.
Not like
Yes.
shooting energy through Zoom or the internet or cell towers or
Hmm.
whatever. You're doing the work. So I just can facilitate and lifeguard the situation. And in terms of what you're saying, it's like, yeah, there's still a lot of misconceptions about hypnotherapy and hypnosis. There's this idea that somebody's going to control you, which is unfortunate because this is such a healing modality and it gives you back control. Really, you're already out of control. And to a certain extent, you're already hypnotized. If you're somebody's dealing with chronic anxiety, you're getting triggered by probably something unconsciously to literally change the state of your biology. It's
Yeah.
really hard to turn on the stress response. It's a lot of effort
Hmm.
by the brain to create all that adrenaline and cortisol, those hormones. That's
Hmm.
adrenaline doing that. So you've already hypnotized yourself to literally change your physiology to triggers you're unaware of. You're hypnotized. So a lot of this work is dehypnotizing people and giving them back control. Control over the physiology, control of their nervous system, control over the thoughts in their heads and the way they feel about themselves and life. And a lot of people point to like those Las Vegas shows or the hypnosis
Yeah,
shows.
I've seen that.
And like people are up there dancing like Michael Jackson and moonwalking and singing like Elvis Presley and barking like dogs and quacking like ducks. And they say, "Oh, see, I don't want to do that. I don't want anybody making me do that." No one can make you do that. Everybody who gets up on that stage volunteers to get up there. They want to do that. Why? Because they're exhibitionists. They're extroverts.
Hmm.
I don't want to do that. Maybe Cynthia, you don't want to do that. I'm sure most of the
No,
people
thank
watching
you.
they
I'll
don't want to do
pass.
it. No, you don't want to. There's people who do, and then
Yeah.
somebody's like, "That's all fake. That's all made up." In terms of what's frustrating about this work is the myths and the misconceptions that prevent people from even trying this work. And if I was to ever do it again, I like if I do it again, but because we were talking about past lives, maybe I will do it again. But if I was to start over again, I would probably rebrand it as something else.
Mm,
Still do
yeah.
what I do, maybe call it, transformational mindset
Use
coaching.
different
Yeah.
terminology
Yeah.
because,
Yeah. Do not use
yeah.
hypnosis or hypnotherapy because it takes too much
Because,
time to explain. It just
mhm.
takes too much time. I mean, nobody else has to do that. You don't have to explain yourself. What healing profession has to constantly explain themselves because of the misconceptions due to
Yeah.
TV and movies and idiots on the internet and whatever, other than hypnotherapists. And it's frustrating. That's all. If I was to start over, if I was to tell the younger me what I know now, it's like, oh, don't call it hypnotherapy. Call it something else.
How can hypnotherapy help people heal from trauma or limiting beliefs? How does that look?
So it's really interesting because in terms of trauma,
Hmm.
those instructions on how to keep yourself safe are installed by you,
Hmm.
again, through a traumatic experience, or maybe as a child, and more than likely unconsciously. But since they are installed by you and held by you, you're allowed to deal with that. Now, the reason, again, we often hold on very tightly to that hurt and that pain and that trauma is because we don't want to experience it again.
Yep.
It's sort of like remembering that a hot pot on a stove is going to burn your hand and keeping the pain of burning your hand. Just let go of the pain. You want the
Mhm.
wisdom of, it's a dangerous world out there. But
Yeah.
that pain and that hurt is held within the subconscious part of mind in those files, and you're allowed to change it. And oftentimes it's just because of a event, an instant that created an almost instantaneous viewpoint or
Yeah.
perspective or instruction on how to keep yourself safe. And maybe it did keep you safe as a child. Maybe it was the best thing to do to hide or keep yourself small or keep your voice quiet or whatever. Maybe that was the best thing you could have done as a child, but it's not going to work when you're an adult trying to make
Hmm.
yourself in this, move through life in this world. I was working with somebody, here's a great example of this. I was doing some classes for the cancer support community of Arizona. I live in Flagstaff,
Hmm.
Arizona. And this is during COVID era, so there were Zoom classes. And we, get 12, 13, 15 people on these
Yeah.
classes. And during one of these series of classes, there was an older woman was in the class. And I'm guessing she's about 70 years old. And on the third class, and this isn't a class where we're talking back and forth. This is for like, okay, welcome everybody. Glad you're here. Today we're going to work on healing acceleration. And so I just want everybody to take a deep breath in and close their, and then we go into a
Yes.
process. Then, okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, send me an email or, stay on the line, stay on the Zoom and we'll talk, but see everybody next week. It's that kind of class. There's not an interaction with everybody. Everybody just moves into a relaxed state and does the work. And so on the third class, the beginning of the class, I was kind of early because I'm setting up the class and welcoming everybody as they show up. And she was a bit early. And so we're just chit-chatting about life and the weather and whatever's going on. And she asked me, "Oh, I wanted to ask you if hypnotherapy works with procrastination." And it
Mm.
does. Procrastination, it works. That's a mindset issue. You want to protect yourself from danger. That's a mindset issue. That can be helped with hypnotherapy because you know what the problem is. You know why you're doing that, not consciously on that subconscious part of mind. And so we made an appointment for the very next day because I had some time available in the afternoon. And what's interesting about this work is when the gears start turning in your subconscious mind, it's like, oh, we're doing some healing work tomorrow or next week or whenever. We can work on a problem, but now why not work on the problem and just deal with this? And so when she showed up 24 hours later to the appointment over Zoom, she said, "I know I told you I wanted to work on procrastination, but what I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life." This is a
Ouch.
70-year-old woman who thinks she's worthless, who doesn't
Mm.
matter. And well, yes, hypnotherapy can work with that. That's a feeling state in the body. But in order to change brain chemistry in this way, the way we're talking about, whether to feel anger or fear or worthless or unworthy of love or that you don't matter, you can only change brain chemistry in this way that we're talking about through a thought or accessing a memory, even if it's unconscious, an unconscious
Yeah.
thought, an unconscious memory. So you know why you're doing it. So sometimes it's just as easy to move you back to follow that connection back to the memory, even if it's in the unconscious part of mind, and resolve it, heal it, whatever needs to happen. And so that's what we did. In our work we did that day, I moved her back to the first time she ever felt that feeling, to the core issue, to the origin of that issue.
Mm.
10 down to 1, 10, 9, 8, all the way down to 1. And 1, where are you? And she says, I'm standing up in my crib and my father is screaming at me because I won't stop crying. Now, standing up in a crib, I don't know, that's like 12 months old, maybe 14 months,
Yeah.
maybe even
Hmm.
younger.
Very young.
And, if she's 70 years old, that's the late 1950s, early 1960s, and maybe men aren't exactly trained how to
Yeah.
nurture young children. Maybe he's just having a bad day, a
Yeah.
bad life. Mom's out of the house. He doesn't know how to deal with a screaming baby. And the only thing he knows how to do just to get some peace and quiet and just try to, be done with the day is to scream louder than the baby and tell the baby to shut up. And in that instant, that child has to justify why this is happening. Here's this person who's supposed to love her and nurture her and protect her. And this person's screaming at her. It's got to be terrifying for a
Hmm.
small child, let alone an adult. And in that instant, that child to justify why this, well, I guess I don't matter in life, that this is the way this person's treating me and caring for me. And
Hmm.
I must not matter. I must not have any worth. I must not. Now, is that true? No, of course, that's not true. You wouldn't tell anybody, young child to an elderly person, that
Hmm.
you're worthless. But in that instant, needing to justify in that terrifying moment, that traumatic moment, the only thing that came up was, well, I guess I must not matter. And if I don't
Hmm.
matter, why try? See, this is where the lack of control comes in. And so through hypnotherapy, you get back that control. What did that child need that she didn't get?
Yeah.
What does the child need to heal? Let's work on that aspect of it.
Hmm.
And that's where the healing work happens. What did the
Hmm.
child need? What did the child need that didn't get it? And let's domino effect that throughout your entire life
Hmm.
so that every other subsequent event related to that gets healed. And that's where the power of this happens. Now, I'm not saying that happened in 5 minutes. This was oftentimes my sessions are 90 minutes. I never saw her again. She held on to that pain for some 70 years, maybe.
That's a long time.
And I never saw her again. And I check in with people. I check in with my
Yeah.
client. It's just like a month later, 6 months later, a year later. Hey, how are you doing? You say, I checked in with her. She was doing great. Yeah, I'm doing great, great, fantastic. She did 3 generalized classes of, medical stuff that had nothing to do with her problem.
Yeah.
And then because she had primed her nervous system and kind of done the practice work,
Yeah.
she was ready to do the deeper healing work. That's why her subconscious mind said, yes, now it's time to do it. And
Yeah.
that's how fast this can work, you
Hmm.
know? And not to say this work is easy, but it can be that simple, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, yeah.
It can be, it's intense sometimes, but it can be that simple in terms of, oh, I just needed to heal the child. I didn't know I needed to do that. I mean, how
Hmm.
long was that going to take her in talk therapy to get all the way back to being 1 year old, But that's the power of hypnotherapy. By moving to that relaxed state of body, of quieting down that conscious level of mind, sometimes it's just as simple to ask, when was the first time you ever felt this emotion of this hurt? When did you feel this pain? When did somebody hurt you? Oh, I remember is when I was in the crib, standing up in my father's, And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's heal that then and see
Mm.
how your life improves. And so that's the power of this. And again, not that it's easy, but it can be simple. And this is not talk therapy. I think talk therapy can be very helpful and useful and healing to people, but a lot of times people find themselves spinning their wheels, because they don't know what the problem is.
And I
And to
want to know the problem.
yeah. And so you're doing like 80, 90, 100 sessions over 2 years, and you
Yeah.
still, because yeah, you're working on some stuff that's helpful.
Hmm.
Yeah, life can be really challenging. It's nice to have a coach to kind of help
Yes.
navigate some of those tricky
Hmm.
parts. That's the beauty of this. It's like
Yes.
you know what the problem. That woman I was talking about, that 70-year-old woman knew exactly what the problem was,
Mm.
but she couldn't access it with her conscious mind. So no talk therapy was going to help her in that situation. I don't want to like
Yes.
talk therapists on blast, but no, that in that particular situation, with what she was dealing with, nothing's going to help her in terms of that. She needed to go deeper behind the veil. And that's where this work is so powerful. Again, maybe not easy, but pretty simple in terms of
Yes.
three sessions that she did, group sessions that primed her nervous system to get ready. Well, that's what we're doing with this work. And maybe that's
Hmm.
one session, maybe that's two, but when we do the work, we start right away. We start that first session. We do some
Yeah.
healing work. But having said all of this, it kind of gets us to the point of not only can you do that, but you can also, again, go deeper behind the veil and access other parts
Hmm.
of you, of your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your higher self, your inner wisdom,
Hmm.
sight, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So different ways of saying it, that from the ancient wisdom keepers all the way up to here, whether you're accessing your third eye, or ways and techniques of helping people.
Thank you for sharing. I
Yeah.
absolutely love hearing stories in that. And I'm so happy that um, she was able to get all that in those 3 sessions.
Yeah.
I've recently tried talk therapy, and it's funny because I will go and I'm like, okay, like I'm trauma dumping, and then they're telling me to do things that I already do. And I'm sitting here like, I want more. And I feel like to each their own, there's different paths to
Yeah.
healing. I'm fortunate to have, friends to trauma dump with, but
Mhm.
I feel like it's things like, hypnotherapy and other things that I find actual healing. And I'm going to go on and get into the experience that I had with you. Okay, so first of all, this is Cynthia's story. When we had first hopped on the call, my heart was pounding. Okay, I was petrified. All right,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh my gosh, one of the biggest fears that I have is losing control of myself and my senses, right?
Sure. Sure.
And it was so interesting because around that time, the kids weren't here, and I had like the whole day to myself, and I like normally I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I need to remain conscious, like I'm scared, oh my gosh. But it it was the opposite. It was very healing, and I was able to like still be here and not on another planet, right?
Well, and then, yeah, and that's a great aspect of it. I'm glad you brought that up because it's, people probably have their ideas from what they see on TV and movies and things, but
Yes.
don't like go into some sort of coma-like trance state. We don't want you in deep,
Yes.
deep theta state because I need you to talk to me about your
Yes.
experience, right? So you don't lose control, you don't lose consciousness because we're actually going to have a conversation about your experience.
Yes.
Tell me what's happening, tell me where you are. If like I don't know, I can't really, okay, let's work on this because sometimes it takes a
Yes.
moment to open up
It does.
and you're going to one, you're explaining it to me one for to help facilitate and move things along down the pathway. But the other reason is because for you, so you can listen to this or read the transcript of it later
Yeah.
for your own benefit. So
Hmm.
it's yeah, you don't like go super deep. And it's not like we just 5 minutes within the session, okay, boom, you're in there. No, we talk a little bit. This is a just I don't think people have got the idea, but this is a 3 hour session.
It doesn't feel like it.
No, and it does not feel like it. It feels, but we'll spend some time talking
Yes.
about what you want to work on. We'll have talked on the phone probably and shot some emails back and
Yeah.
forth. And so I have an idea of what you want to work on. I'll send you a big, if you think my talking like this is,
Yes.
you should see my emails. We'll spend some time talking about what it is you want to work on, what that the past life issue is, because a big part of it, and we'll get to this in a minute, but the healing. It's about the healing of his current life. Yeah, there's some sessions that maybe just be wanting to discover a past life. It's like he probably had multiple lifetimes to get to that level of mastery. But most of the work I do with past life regression is about somebody struggling in this life and their intuition is telling them it's something else, linked to something else.
I think in that beginning part, I knew what was going to come up, but I didn't want to focus on that. So
Yeah.
that beginning part was like really good. I'm the type of person that like I could be going through the most traumatic thing and I keep it moving. I was seeing a lot of images that I like to ignore, and I was in the place. The whole concept and like the way that you structure it is great, and I thank you for that. It kind of like warms you up. I go into this life. There's not necessarily like feeling attached to it until after. And just like I can see things, I'm a psychic. I
That's what's interesting about your experience that I'm
go
curious to find out a
close the
little bit
door, close the door,
more about is
close the
because of
door.
your kind of
Abilities.
extrasensory abilities. If it was more
Oh,
intense, I don't know how you'd know if it was more intense or not. Your skills
mm.
and your extrasensory abilities, if this experience was more clear or more intense or more powerful. And again, I don't know that you have anything
No,
to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
It was very clear in the beginning. I don't know what you want to call it, but like I can see things and I've been able to like tap into a past life, but every time I do, it's intense. And
Mhm.
it's like I don't want to do this. So it was interesting because what in the beginning there I was getting little like snippets, like little portals of
Mhm.
like, Cynthia, there's a life here, there's a life there, and I'm like, and then once we got into the life, the that specific life, it was very interesting because I remember you asking, "Are you a male or a female?" And I was like, "I don't fucking know," and I was like, eh. But I felt this. feminine energy. And it
Mm.
came to me as an energy first. And I'm like, who the fuck am I? And then just like being in this, and I was like, I'm a man, but I don't know what you call that. There's this very wounded feminine energy that I felt in that life, which is interesting because I feel like in this life, there's this ego that's very hyper and very, I need to protect myself because I didn't have that as a child. And, like I had told you, I have this trauma with men in this life. So, in the life that I was in that regret, in the past life regression, it was just so interesting because I don't like being in that wounded, feminine, vulnerable energy.
Right.
And um, I am able to feel things. I'm very spiritual. My spirit guides are like, okay, girl, like, we're not going to have you feel. I was able to see more and
Mm.
smell more. And
Oh, that's interesting.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to just get like a bead. I've always had this connection. Like I love the medieval times and times like that. I feel like that life was there
Mhm.
in the medieval time, and then the relationship with the person that I had in that life reflected a lot in this life.
Right.
It was just so interesting to be able to see and just kind of not really feel the energy of that life and how there's this poverty that I was living in, and then there was a snippet of like there was family, and then the family's gone, and I'm abandoned, and I'm like, well, fuck, you're bringing up this abandonment that I have in this life. I
Yeah.
was literally, I'm adopted,
Okay.
and there's trauma with that. That's an interesting connection. How I was abandoned in that life, and I don't want to say abandoned, but I was given up, for adoption in this life. And I'm like, there's a connection there that I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not ready. But the most interesting thing that I want to talk about is that state of, I don't know what the heck that was, but do you remember when you were talking about after I had passed? And I don't even know what you want to call it. Now, I'm not religious. I don't necessarily know if like I believe in a heaven, but I do feel like after we pass, we go to a place of like all love and stuff like that. We go back to source. And that particular area was really interesting. I was able to see my spirit guides. I was able to see, family. And not only that, I was able to see the souls of people in this life. I was able to see my mom. I was able to see my dad. I was able to see my children.
Mm.
Um, I was able to see, my partner and all that. And it was just very interesting. And the questions that you had asked were even more interesting because I love like mental stimulation and like challenging topics. And I love when, people ask me challenging things and push me to this like I don't know. And then I start thinking, I absolutely love that stimulation. What happens in that in between? Who do you see? Like, what are you guys talking about? And in that, the most healing thing, and I feel like what's started. So a little bit about last year, I feel like that whole year was healing my relationship with men, you
Mm.
know, and this year, I've been getting signs in December of Cynthia, you're going to be healing this mother wound. And I'm like, so it's so the regression at the end of it, you did the whole you're in your mother's belly. And it was difficult for me to vision that because I don't have a connection with my biological mother. And um she had passed. Well, she passed. May she rest in peace. She passed, and it always scared me because I am a medium. I can connect with those that have passed, and I'm like petrified. Like I don't want her energy to be into mine. And I'm like, Craig, what are you doing? I
Yeah.
don't want to. But
Yeah.
with your energy and that. that nurturing and, your voice had me feel safe. And then I had a couple of guides on the side. I was face to face with my biological mother, and then I'm in her belly. That was when spirit had me feel. And when I tell you, I was hearing arguments. I was in the belly, and I remember you asked me like what stage I'm in, and I think I was in the last trimester. And I heard arguments, and it was just this toxicity outside, and I felt sick. I felt like I wanted to puke. It was just bleh, just like I'm connecting to it now and I want to puke.
Mm.
And I'm still trying to figure out what that is. Maybe that's like my mother wound. I don't know, but I feel like it's a lot of generational trauma maybe that was from
Mm.
her, that was passed down to me, that maybe I'm healing in this life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was so powerful, that last part the in that like spiritual counseling, and also in the belly, in the womb. And I'm like, ugh, I have to heal this. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but bleh.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really important because I'm first off, I appreciate your vulnerability in talking
Yeah,
about this. It's pretty intense work to do and let alone talk about it in front of a
yeah.
bunch of people. But so I applaud your courage in doing that.
Thank you.
But just so people kind of get an idea of it real quick, there's kind of three parts to this work. Well, four, I guess.
Yes.
There's a beginning work with the warm-up exercise and just solidifying what precisely it is we want to work on, what you want to work on. And then there's the movement back into the past life you're going to experience, directly, more than likely related to some sort of hurt or pain you're experiencing in this current life, so it can get healed. Of course, there's like you just brought up, there's a generational aspect to us, and ancestral healing that may needs to be healed, but there's different things that may need to happen. Next time, want to look at, have I ever been a medium or a psychic in a past life?
Yes.
Have I had multiple lives, and now, I'm my talent, my skill at this is even greater. Maybe the next life he'll come back and it'll even be greater. We're looking at that past life. You may have lived 90 years in that past life. We, of course, can't go through all 90 years. Uh, but what we'll look at are 4 or 5 specific events in that life that have to do with, let's say somebody's dealing with anger. They're just
Yeah.
angry all the time. They don't know why. They have nothing in their life. Years of talk therapy and looking at their life. So they're now getting the intuition that it may be a past life issue. So we're going to go through 4 or 5 different events in that past life that are related and significant to the anger you're experiencing. Let's say we arrive at that past life. I'm going to ask you, where are you? Get some
Yes.
identifying details about what's going on, age, gender, time period, maybe where in the world you are. And it may be very, very specific. It just kind of depends on what it is, how the information is coming to you from
Yeah.
your higher self. Okay. Now we established that. I want you to move to the next important event in that life that has to do with the anger you're experiencing in this current life. 1, 2, 3, be there now. You may go to when you're 12. You may go to when you're 35. I had one person do it just within the course of 3 days. Like it was like a World War I deal.
Mm,
Uh, and that was the hurt and pain he's dealing with, was this kind of issue of 3 days during this war. And so instead of like, oh, I'm 12, I'm 25, I'm 40, I'm 60, this guy did it just within 3 days. That was his whole past life experience. So anyway, we'll do 3 or 4 or 5 different scenarios, events that have to do with it, and then we'll arrive at the last day in that past life, because this is where a lot of the throwing action happens. What is happening in that last day and in your last moments in that life? What are you thinking, feeling? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are
hmm
you filled with love and joy? Are you seeking revenge? What are your
Yeah.
feelings about love, about relationships, about money, about
hmm
authority figures as you pass in that life? And then your spirit passes from that body. Again, going to ask, now that the spirit is out of that body, what is your experience of that past life? What are you taking from that? What are you throwing forward maybe into this current life? And then I'll ask them, identify. It's like, what does it feel like to be a spirit? I don't know. Do you sense other beings around you? And then we'll kind of move up to what they call spirit world or the soul realm, or what Michael Newton in his book Journey of Souls calls life between lives.
Yes.
Soul place where it's a place of rest and rejuvenation and healing and reconnecting, reuniting with your soul family. You're moving and growing and learning, developing, and some of this learning has to do with lives on Earth. Sort of like playing a video game with your friends. And you get online at a certain times, okay, we're going to play this game, or we're going to be these characters, and we're going to
Yeah.
develop these skills, and we're going to get this treasure.
Hmm.
And the game ends. And then you go back to being your, you know, person
Hmm.
who you
Yep.
are instead of that character on the video game. And so we'll go through, and you know, there are different places to go to. You might meet have orientation, so to speak, with your guide or the council of
Hmm.
elders, or you definitely go to the healing place to
Yeah.
reset and recharge and rejuvenate and restore your energy, and maybe it's light, or maybe it's with water. A lot of people use water, which is very fascinating. It may be some sort of thing you can't explain. It's
Yeah.
not understandable, but it's happening. And whether there's your guide is there or other healing beings are there, you heal from that past event.
Hmm.
And then again, other things to do. We could go to the past life viewing room where you see threads. Have I had these skills as a psychic before, or whatever it may be, whether it's dance or martial arts or science or math or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And you can see threads, or have I been learning this to deal with this anger issue through other lives? You may see that maybe, but what we always do is at the end uh, of the session or the end of your time in the spirit world, we go to the current life viewing room or the current life planning room. We may call it a room or a space, but it's just to help the mind kind of focus on where we need to go next. And what it is you are planning your life, this one right here. And is it, what's your mission? What's your purpose? Where are you here to learn? Do you recognize anybody in your soul group as playing a part in this life? Do you recognize them from that past life? Because your friend may be your father in this life, but played your sister in a past life, or your best friend in this life and your grandmother in a past. And so we'll go all sorts of different informations like why did you choose, and this is a hard one to kind of wrap your head around sometimes, but why did you choose your mother to be the way she is? Why did you choose your father to be the way he is? Why did you put yourself through the pain of being adopted? Which is a real mind, I would think, not that I'm adopted, so I
No,
have no idea, but
yeah.
I would think it'd be a mind twist to be like being adopted because there's this, I was given up. But on
Hmm.
the other hand, you were chosen. And not that
Correct.
it's a catalog or anything, but they could have walked away at any point, but they
Hmm.
chose you. You are the chosen one. And so that's got to be a real mind twist, I would think, because you're abandoned to a
Hmm.
certain extent and given up. And yet because when you're pregnant and you have a child, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
Right.
That, whereas you were specifically chosen.
Hmm.
Which I mean, I'm not to say that this needs to change your life or anything, but I always, when I hear about it, I think about
It
adoption. It's got
does.
to be a
It
mind
does.
twist. Just got to be
It
a
is.
mind twist, and because it's the ultimate hurt and yet the ultimate love. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And again, I'm not here to change your life about this or tell, but I just think that's just I don't know. That's hard to wrap my head around. I can't
It
imagine
is.
what you've been going through. But so anyway, so what about that? Is that something that was chosen, and who's choosing this? Are you doing it? Is it a group plan? And it's really fascinating the answers people get.
Yeah.
Now, like you say, I ask a lot of questions and you always get an answer, and I just might not be the answer you want because the answer might be you're not
It's
allowed to
never
go.
gonna be, it's never
Yeah.
gonna be the answer you want,
Yeah,
okay?
well, I wanted, but probably never the answer you want. But because especially that's hard to ask about your parents, especially if it's been troublesome. If there's been some trauma, and again, that's another one to wrap your head around. But it also becomes very empowering. It's like, what if I chose this for a learning experience? And so that's where a lot of these heavy questions come, and the insights and the discoveries and the healing don't stop when we end the session.
No, because
You
I'm
know, yeah, yeah,
okay.
weeks, months, but In that aspect of, okay, we've learned all we need to learn in the current life viewing room. It's
Yeah.
time to go. And this is more of a somewhat of a curiosity, but it can also be a healing experience. It's time to go. What does it feel like to enter the womb of your mother? People have different perceptions of it, experiences of it. When do you arrive? First trimester,
Mhm.
second trimester,
Yeah.
third trimester. Why then? Is it always then? It's all these wonderful and interesting questions to get a better answer, not only just for healing, but also just out of curiosity of, is
Yeah.
this specific to you? Do you always end up arriving at the third trimester, or is this relatively new because it was last minute, or I don't know, who knows?
Right.
But also what's going on, and if, necessary, what's going on in the womb? Is there some other stuff going on? Because what you were talking about, feeling sick, I mean, if there's obviously babies connected to mom, and if mom is creating the adrenaline and cortisol and those stress hormones, which get dumped into the bloodstream, and those neuropeptides, those molecules of anger and stress and fear, that's the blood supply is being fed into the baby for nutrients to help the baby grow. So the baby's, in a sense, absorbing that anxiety and that anger
Yeah.
and that stress. And so that could be, something to work on as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the 3 hours, but like you said, it seems like 10 minutes sometimes.
It does. It
Um,
goes by really quick.
and like I say, it doesn't, like I know you just talked about it. It's like it doesn't end at the end of the session when we click the off button
It
and about our
really
day. It's
doesn't.
like the insights come within the days. That's where the recording comes in and the transcript. The transcript is
Yeah.
really easier to deal with because you can search for. I remember somewhere I said something about receiving love. So you type in the search love and see, well,
Yeah.
you mentioned love. Okay, here it is. And you can come back 6 months later because you saw a book in a bookstore window
Mhm.
or overheard a conversation in a coffee shop, or you um saw a bumper sticker. And
Yeah.
you're, wait, that's the symbol I saw on
Right.
the book, or that somebody else mentioned, or and it brings in a whole new component to it, you know.
It
Yeah.
takes time for things to come. But I will say for me, I feel like just because I'm the type of person that like if I see trauma, I meet that head on. Like I am like Cynthia can say that she's not ready, but like give it like a month and I'll like smack it. And I will say since then, I have had a lot of experiences where that feeling of at the end comes up and that Cynthia, we're gonna be healing that relationship with women. And I've had a lot of instances where women that have hurt me and then like I just start crying for no reason. Like it's already actively like it's happening, whether I like it or not. Which I thank you again for that, just because I feel like with just there was money aspect looking back and having to do with career because going back, I remember you asked me, what do you do? And looking back now, there was a shame, which is interesting because there is a little bit of shame in what I do with the topic of spirituality and just triggering people because I have a wound of judgment, stuff like that. So I'm like connecting the two and I'm like,
Yeah.
Cynthia, heal it, heal
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But it's interesting. The time comes when the time comes.
I have one last question that I have for you, and then I pulled your cards and we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for someone feeling skeptical or nervous about hypnotherapy?
I get that. I understand. I would say research is best. If you want real, honest research about this process, there's actually a subsection of Google that only looks at scientific and medical research. So, research studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals. This is legit research, and it's called Google Scholar. And type in hypnotherapy, and you'll get thousands upon thousands of research studies showing the efficacy. There's anecdotal evidence and things like that. I think just education and knowledge helps alleviate that fear. And I get it. I totally get it. But I think the more you educate yourself about it, the more, looking at whether it's actual research or anecdotal evidence of people talking about their experience like you just have. Uh, but it's also the person you work with too.
Hmm.
Make sure the person you work with is qualified and highly trained because unfortunately, a lot of states don't actually regulate hypnotherapy. So like
Oh, wow.
massage therapists, psychotherapists, of course, doctors, electricians have to be licensed by the state. So they have oftentimes even have to take a test to
Mm.
prove their ability. Massage therapists have to register with the state because they're doing
Hmm.
this deep healing work, and
Yeah.
people don't want to hurt somebody, and so you got to get registered. Say most states don't. You don't have to do that with hypnotherapy, which is very concerning because you have to for psychotherapy, for talk therapy.
Hmm.
So be very, very clear on who you're working with. Understand their training because oftentimes it's just video training. Like they'll just watch a bunch of videos
And then,
and
yeah.
call themselves a hypnotherapist, and you might be the first person they ever worked with. So if you go to their website and they aren't bragging about their training, like here's where I went to, because it's like the joke about the Harvard people. They always tell you they went to Harvard, you know, and they're wearing the Harvard sweatshirt and all that stuff, or
Hmm.
Stanford. That's because they're proud of where they went to, and they feel that they got extraordinary education. So if they're not bragging about where they went to school or where they got their training, it's quite possible they did 30 hours of video training.
Hmm.
And so with the why I brag about going to Hypnotherapy Academy, that's 500 hours walking out of there. I
Hmm.
worked with probably did, working with each other. So we just switch seats. I'm the hypnotherapist and I'm working with somebody, and then we switch and they work with me, which is kind of cool. But within that 10 weeks, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I probably did 50 sessions with people on weekends and the evenings. Again, it's Albuquerque, so there's nothing to do. So you want to
Yeah.
do more hypnotherapy, and it's so fun. I walked out of school having done 50 sessions. And so it feels comfortable. Do research, knowledge, I think, with anything, not just hypnotherapy, but whatever you're looking at. Just educate yourself. Look at the reviews of the people
Hmm.
who you're thinking about working with, and certainly
Hmm.
find out where they got their training. And if they're not talking about it, I'd walk away. I think to me personally, I think it's a big red flag when they won't tell you where they got their training. I think that's a huge flag
Mm.
because there's so many people out there, again, they're doing these 25, 30-hour courses and calling themselves a hypnotherapist, and they're going to help you with your trauma when you were 5 years
Hmm.
old. Yikes. So
Yeah.
be really careful with that. And that's the unfortunate thing with between the Las Vegas shows and that. It's why it kind of gets itself a bad reputation. But there are legit people out there who know what they're doing, and it's a very healing modality.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Use your discernment, guys. Use
Yeah.
your discernment. But I 1000 recommend you
No, thank you. I
to
appreciate
anyone that is listening, go on and you do have a consultation call, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so you can find me. I name brand practice Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, which I know is a mouthful, but I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona. So if you go on the Google, you'll see me pop up in the search,
Yeah.
Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. On there, you can find my past life regression page, but you can, email me from there. We'll get on a phone call and just chit chat about it. Whatever you want to work on, whether it's, past life regression or you want to do some more work within the context of this, life. Happy to talk with you. My wife runs Northern Arizona Massage and Wellness Clinic, and I'm a part of that.
Yeah.
That's basically where my office is
That's
now.
so amazing.
My wife's been a massage therapist for 30 years. She literally just retired from that aspect of it, but because she wants to run
Yeah.
a wellness clinic, but she has like 9 other massage therapists, and there's
That's
Ayurvedic
amazing.
going on there and a float tank. And anyway, she built this big thing. Was has been her life dream of opening up this wellness clinic. And because of what I do, I kind of I have my office there now and associate myself with her. But I was going to say I don't have anybody answering the phone, but I guess technically I do. Uh, Northern Arizona Massage and Wellness. Uh, you can talk to the front desk person there, and they can arrange the appointment,
Yes, yes, yes.
the free consultation call.
Very, very last thing before I get into your cards. Your book, is it in the works? When is
Oh,
it
it's in
going to
the
come
works. Yeah,
out?
it's going to be a while,
Okay,
maybe,
okay.
but
It's gonna be a
yeah,
while,
I'll send
y'all.
you the second it's done. Maybe I'll even send you a photo, because I'll print it out to have somebody
Yes, I would
checking and
love
stuff.
to
I'll
see.
send you the spiral bound 8.5 by 11 version of it before I get it edited down. But oh, and speaking of books, just because we mentioned this, just if people want to
Yeah.
do more looking into this kind of stuff, I mentioned him once, but Michael Newton, he has two wonderful books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. I highly recommend these books because he talks about that soul life or that life between life. He coined that term, life between lives. And it's fascinating because again, a lot of this research isn't just being done by the metaphysical crowd.
Yes, yes.
There are degreed PhD
Hmm.
MDs doing this work. Michael Newton, uh, a Harvard psychotherapist, he
Yes.
accidentally regressed somebody back to spirit world. This is back in 1969. They were doing some what he thought was going to be early childhood regression work,
Hmm.
and the guy went all the way back to spirit world.
All the way
And
back.
that's where that started. This is 1969. And Michael Newton's like, that was
Wow.
fantastic. That was amazing. I wonder if I can do it again. And so he started working with people and he created a protocol of being able to get people back to that state. And then he started noticing something interesting is people, and it didn't matter age, culture, gender, they kept having the same experiences. They didn't know each other. There was no way of contacting each other. This is 1970s. They kept having the same experiences. And so he started researching, like asking specific questions about this. And so he did about 15 years of research, kind of in secret because he's a Harvard
Yes.
educated
Yeah.
psychotherapist and you don't want to be talking about this woo-woo stuff. But he did 15 years of research with thousands of people and found consistently they were going to the same places, having the same kind of experiences. And that was the first book, Journey of Souls, came out in 1992. He did
Hmm.
another decade's worth of research with thousands of people, and he wrote a second book that's twice as long called Destiny of Souls. So if you want more information about this stuff, those are two really good starting points. Um, and then the other thing, just because we mentioned it, and people, it might have registered with people
Hmm.
and felt familiar to people. We were talking about
Yeah.
ancestral healing. There's a lot of information coming out about that now. One book I recommend is Ancestral Medicine,
Hmm.
but Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Foor, Foor. And what I like about this guy is he's an academic and he kind of fell backwards, if you will, into this work, but he's
Hmm.
a PhD'd family marriage counselor, psychotherapist who now focuses on ancestral healing
Hmm.
and through different modalities. I mean, he studied with the Yoruba tribe in West Africa, speaks their
Hmm.
language.
Hmm.
It's fascinating beyond belief. But the reason why I like this guy is because here's this uptight white male academic PhD,
Yeah.
and he's doing this work.
Hmm.
So if he can do it, that
You
means
can
I
do
can
it.
do it, you know?
Hmm.
And so that's a great introduction to that work as well. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
I have that on my wish list. The
Yeah.
on I'm an Audible girly. I
Yeah, okay.
can't focus when I'm like reading like this.
Yeah.
But okay, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
I pulled some cards for you.
Perfect. I love this stuff. Yeah.
And yes. Okay. I just gotta tell you, I feel like there's gonna be a shift in your business, a good shift, I
Okay.
feel. I don't know what you have mustering up. I have a card here. It's plant seeds. Hopefully you can see it.
Yeah.
It's plant seeds. And I feel like I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if it's part of the book, but I feel like you've planted a seed. Maybe it's, being on this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the Eight of Wands has everything, has
Oh yeah.
everything to do with movement. I see you moving. I don't know if you've been like talking about like moving actually outside of Arizona or what, but I see that
Right.
in your life, and not only that, with the business as well. I love it. We have the abundance.
Oh yeah. I like that one.
Abundance, I feel like in your personal life, but also really in this new shift that's coming. I'm seeing this energy, this abundance of energy, and it's just like that's gonna be coming in, and I'm really excited for you.
Oh.
Um, we have the Son of Swords. I said the Page of Swords. The Son of Swords. Ah, sorry, I have my background blurred, but
Yeah.
the Son of Swords and is it the book? There's something that that's mustering up, that's gonna be coming, that's gonna bring this um new perspective. And I don't know, you're gonna be a part of this like merge of, I don't know if it's like the scientific or like there's this aspect of something that's gonna be merging with another aspect. Is that like, spirituality and merging
Yeah.
it,
Nice.
right?
I like it.
I love that. Craig,
Yeah.
I absolutely love you. Are the first man on my podcast, my first
Really?
guest.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Well,
let's
thank you.
celebrate.
Yeah, thank you for that then. I'm thrilled
Yes.
to make that marker. Yeah, thank you for
Yes.
inviting me and
Hmm.
especially again your courage and because I know this is like having just some stranger because I forget if we were on
Yeah.
Facebook or something and just have this stranger reach out and say, "Hey, let's do a past life regression and
Let's
then talk
connect.
about it." How vulnerable is that? And so I really honor your courage
Thank
to
you.
not only do it, but then to talk about it publicly is very strong and very shows how empowered you are within yourself. And I
Thank
know
you.
everybody has stuff to work on, but it shows your courage and your power and your willingness to like talk about it because maybe it helps somebody else.
I
So
hope so. I
yeah.
hope so. But that is it for this episode. Y'all go on and get your consultation with Craig, okay? All right, I'm gonna end it here. Bye.